Greetings and salutations, my friends, and welcome to a new video. This is actually very exciting because I have been browsing lately for anticipated releases for the second half of the year, and I totally missed out on doing this in July. I don't know why I didn't compute. Oh yeah, midpoint of the year would have been the perfect time to do this, and I feel like I missed out on talking about a lot of the books that I was looking forward from July until December. That's not to say that there aren't releases from August till December that I'm still very excited about, and so today, July aside, we are going to be talking about 10 books that I'm still anticipating by the end of the year. So this is a little tiny list in comparison to the one we made at the beginning of the year. I did make another video talking about anticipated releases that spanned from January to mostly June, but there was like a little sprinkling of July in there as well. So for this one, we have got August to December, and I'm actually really excited about all of these books, and I wouldn't be surprised if I actually do get to all of them before the year is over. Now, you guys may actually be surprised to know that the very first one is actually a YA contemporary. I come and go with YA, you guys know this. I find that often I enjoy young adult stories, and then other times I feel like it is just not for me anymore, but I couldn't help but be charmed by the synopsis of this one. It is a story about reconnecting to your roots as an adult and its surrounding food, and it just sounds so very cool. And this is A Banh Mi for Two by Trinity Gwen, I believe is how the last name is pronounced, and we follow our main character Lan, who lives in Saigon, Vietnam, and the expectations on her are quite high. She feels like she needs to be the perfect daughter and meet a certain quota to help her widowed mother, especially with the banh mi stand that she owns. But Lan's true passion lies with her food blog that she has since stopped updating since her father passed, called A Banh Mi for Two. And lo and behold, the love interest Vivi, a Vietnamese American girl, travels to Vietnam behind her parents' back in her first year of college as an exchange student program to really see the homeland that her parents very clearly don't want to talk about. And while she is there, she knows that she wants to explore all of these different sites that are talked about in A Banh Mi for Two. These two end up meeting and a romance starts striking up, and it just sounds like such a sweet story, so I can't wait to give this a go. I have never heard of this author, never read something by them before, but the story again sounds so very charming, and I hope that it'll be a good one. Then I have got Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver, which is honestly wild to think about. Wild Eyes, wild. You guys already know I love me a good bad joke, but I really do think it's wild that the first book came out earlier this year in April, and we get the second installment immediately, on top of her other series, the Gold Rush Ranch series, re-releasing from Bloom Books. Elsie Silver really is having her here. However, I didn't love Wild Love, so this is me giving the series another chance, but I don't know that if this installment is not good that I'll keep on reading the series. I'm very torn with this. However, Wild Eyes in premise does seem so much cooler, and I think we'll probably get to know the characters a little bit better because the love interest that we see in this one, the little pop star, is not a character that we have seen prominently displayed in the story before. These two people are not friends, they don't know each other from before, so I think it's a really great opportunity to build up these characters and their stories probably a little bit better than Wild Love did. In Wild Eyes, we follow Rosie's brother. Rosie is the main character from book one. He is a single dad, and he really loves this one pop star that just keeps making all of the rounds. Lo and behold, at the end of Wild Love, girly pop just gets to where they're at, and this man is immediately dumbstruck. He's like, oh my god, this is the hottest woman I've ever seen in my life, and the romance is between these two people, and it's about this pop star trying to figure out where she wants to go with her career and trying to escape the limelight whilst falling in love with a single dad and really loving this life isolated from the media, and this dad figuring out how to fit this new woman into his and his child's life. It sounds like something I would love, so I'm hoping that Elsie Silver will come through with this one, I beg. So hopefully Wild Eyes will be a success. Then I have got My Vampire Plus One by Jenna Levine, or Levin, I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name. This is the companion sequel to My Roommate is a Vampire, which you guys know I absolutely loved, and I begged. I was anxious for it, I was thirsty for it, I was yearning for it. I was hoping that we'd get a Reggie story. Reggie is the very annoying, obnoxious companion and best friend to the love interest in book one, and as I met him, I immediately knew he needed his own book. It was impossible not to, and here we are with My Vampire Plus One. And in this one, we follow Amelia Collins, who's trying to get her family off her damn back. Her family's always pestering her about when she's gonna settle down, when she's gonna get married, when she's gonna bring somebody home, when she's gonna bring somebody to all of the family functions, and she figures out that if she brings somebody to a family function and they are the absolute worst, meaning obnoxious, screaming, lack of etiquette, lack of respect, breach of boundaries, just the absolute worst human she can bring to one, that they'll all lay off her back and she'll be successful at not having to deal with this ever again. And that's where Reginald comes in. She figures that if he accompanies her to a family wedding, everything will go amazing. And he definitely delivers, because things go to shit so quickly that she starts thinking that she needs to take him to more functions so that everybody in her life sees him and they don't pester her at all. And then that will obviously strike some sort of partnership and romance between the two of them. I am so very excited about this. He was just so full of life and personality in book 1 that I cannot wait to see what he'll have to offer in his own installment. I think it's going to be a really, really fun book. Next up, we have got A Dark and Drowning Tide by Alison Saft. Now, I absolutely loved A Fragile Enchantment earlier this year, and as soon as I saw that they were coming out with a sapphic academic rivals to lovers, I knew I had to get on this. And so we've got our main character Lorelai, who is a folklorist, and she has set out on an expedition sent by the king to find a magical spring that is foretold to provide unmeasurable power. Lorelai obviously thinks that this is the perfect opportunity to prove herself so that she can become a naturalist and travel through all different lands that she has only ever dreamed of going to. Except that the leader of the expedition, her own mentor, is found dead, and now a murder mystery needs to be solved in the middle of finding this magical spring, and her biggest ally is going to become her own academic rival, Sylvia von Wolf, who is equal parts infuriating as she is stunning. And this just sounds so freaking good. I don't know why I thought when I initially saw the cover that this was going to be a dark academia, and honestly I've been so disillusioned from dark academia that I don't want to look at one for a really long time. And as soon as I read the synopsis, I figured it was a fantasy, and it definitely screams kind of cozy fantasy with a murder mystery in the middle of it, and this sounds like a lot of fun. I feel like I'm gonna really love this. Fingers crossed that I do. Harry Maniscalco is also coming out with the next installment of, I think she's calling it the Princess of Sin series, which is the companion series to Kingdom of the Wicked, and you guys know I loved Throne of the Fallen, and we did get a little bit of an introduction to what we're going to see in the second book. Following Prince of Gluttony Gabriel Axton, who has obviously indulged a lot in his lifespan, there is nothing he'll say no to as long as it services him and he feels good doing it, except that something happens and the synopsis doesn't detail quite what. So I'm very curious to find that out, but something happens in his court that endangers it, and he is very terrified of what's coming next, and he can only turn to one person, and that's the journalist that he has been avoiding for decades. And that is Adriana St. Lucent, who has been on the run also for decades because she doesn't stop publishing anything damning about the Prince of Gluttony, and she's been hoping for years that people will see him as the demon he actually is. But then terrifying rumors start coming up about the ice dragons of the north reclaiming their power. I don't know how exactly that is bad. Again, we'll figure it out during the book, and they need to partner up to figure out exactly what's going on. Again, we already saw a tidbit of them in book 1, and we saw like the tension and the hatred that Prince of Gluttony has towards Andrea, so I'm very curious to see them in their own installment, and I'm hoping that this installment will be equally as good as Throne of the Fallen, because that one was a success. You guys are gonna be so surprised at what I am about to talk about, because the Sally Rooney book has actually made it into an anticipated releases video. You never thought that was going to happen, but here we are. I have read 2 Sally Rooney books in the past. I did not like either of them. However, I think this one in comparison to her other books definitely sound like something I would like. So we have got brothers Ivan and Peter, who in the wake of their father's death are handling the situation in very different ways. We have got Peter, who is a lawyer in Dublin, and he is medicating himself to oblivion. And on top of that, he's got to balance his own grief with the person that he loves, and also a college student that is having like the absolute worst time, apparently. Flip side, we have got Ivan, his brother, who is a competitive chess player, who is the complete opposite of what his brother is. He's a loner, he doesn't really like socializing, doesn't really have a whole lot of friends, and he ends up meeting an older woman that really strikes his interest because she's also escaping from her own turbulent past and things go from there. I think this side of literary fiction is very much what I love to read about, and so I am hoping that Sally Rooney comes through with a really good book. The UK cover is also absolutely stunning, and Mel, who never placed pre-orders, I placed a pre-order on Waterstones for the UK hardcover. That's how serious I am about this. That's how serious I am about potentially liking this, and I don't know what that says about me. I don't know that that says that I am an optimist or that I am a masochist, but we'll fucking find out. You guys may also know, if you've been here for a while, that every single year I have like that one token Christmas book that I read. This year I'm actually going to be reading two because both of these sound so very good and both of them are gay and I love it. The very first one is Make the Season Bright by Ashley Herring Blake, which is the author of Delilah Green Doesn't Care, which you guys know I absolutely loved. And this one follows our main character Charlotte, who was stood at the altar by her ex-fiance. And despite many things in her life not going right, she is at least part of a really great string ensemble called the Rosalind Quartet, and she lives in New York City living her dream life. So things are not going so wrong, except that during the Christmas time, one of her string mates invites her to her house in Colorado for Christmas alongside the rest of the team so that they can all have a nice getaway whilst also practicing for their upcoming event. And it is there that she realizes that her friend's sister has also invited a lovely little guest, also known as Brighton, her ex-fiance. And they are pretending to not know each other, which then makes it even more difficult because there's a lot of charged history. And I just know Ashley Herring Blake will be doing the sapphics right this Christmas, and I am very excited about it. And then the second Christmas release that I am very much looking forward to is The Nightmare Before Christmas. This is by Sarah Rask. I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name. And this just sounds like a delight. Follow our main character, Nicholas Cole Klaus, who is obviously the heir to the Christmas empire, except that Santa Claus has now turned Christmas into a PR facade and disaster, and now he has to marry his best friend Iris, who is the Easter princess, and he messes it all up when he goes on this rampage because he's like, I want nothing to do with this fiasco, so I'm just gonna go make out with a hot stranger on a bar on a Tuesday night. And he indeed makes out with somebody, except that that somebody is Hex, the Halloween heir, and he is coming in to contest his own right to Iris's hand, and they figure out that the situation is extra fucked because they're both vying for the same thing, but also kind of have the hots for each other. What more could I ask? I also have Where the Library Hides by Isabel Ibanez on my list, although I didn't absolutely love everything that went down in What the River Knows. I think that the story itself was really, really good. I just wish that maybe certain things would have been handled better, so I am very excited to see how the second installment comes about, especially based on the cliffhanger that we got at the end of book one. So in the story of What the River Knows, I think the series is called Secrets of the Nile, I'm pretty sure. We follow our main character Inez in the wake of her parents' disappearance. Everybody is telling her, and specifically a letter from her uncle arrives from Cairo telling her that her parents are dead. Despite not finding the bodies and knowing what happened, they are proclaiming so because there are no clues to be found. And so Inez does the wild thing, hops on a boat from Buenos Aires, Argentina, all the way to Cairo in order to figure out what has happened to her parents. And when her uncle figures out that she's there, not only is he super pissed at her, but he also assigns her a babysitter, Whitford Hayes, which is his second-hand man, also known as like his reinforcer because he was in the British Army, so like he's really gifted with weaponry and combat and whatnot. And these two strike up a little bit of a romance in the middle of all of the chaos ensuing, and the story goes from there. The entire story centers around finding out what happened to her parents, but also finding Cleopatra's tomb, which is somewhat tied to their disappearance, and then finding all of the riches that all of these different excavations have got to provide. It also has loads of commentary on foreign countries and governments coming in to exploit the riches of a country that does not belong to them, and things that definitely do not belong to them either, to display in museums or sell to the highest bidder. And so there were definitely parts of the first book that I found immensely interesting. Along those things, the romance I think was incredibly strong, which makes me really hopeful for book two given the ending of book one. So safe to say I'm very much looking forward to this, and we're going to see what Isabel Ibanez does in the second one because it is a duology, which is fun, which means that I'll be done with another series by the end of the year, and I do love that. And last but not least, we have got A Cruel Thirst by Angela Montoya. I had not seen this book anywhere, and as I was browsing Goodreads, I found this, and I was like, what is this little gem, and why is nobody talking about this? Because it sounds so good. Vampire hunter romance. Literally say less, and it's also Latin vampires. Like, come on, y'all. You already know I'm gonna be all over this when this comes out in December. We follow our main character, Carolina Fuentes, who very much wants to fulfill the role that her family has set up for every single one of its members. She wants to hunt down the same vampires that her father does, but her father wants to marry her off to whoever he thinks is worthy of her and ship her off to Lord knows where, except that one day she encounters a sediento. I just know this story is gonna be so good. I'm trying to manage expectations, but I'm already so excited. Just el sediento. That sounds so cool. I'm gonna be all over this. And once she encounters said vampire, she figures that he is very different to what she expected. He is kind and he is noble, and it makes her question everything she knows about vampires. And on the counterpart, we have got Lalo Villalobos, who is the eldest of two, and he is very much the responsible older sibling, the one who needs to fulfill all of these different roles and expectations, and everything goes to shit when he is turned by a vampire, making him have to flee away from his family. And so then he has like this little revenge path, I guess, to end every sediento that he sees on his path. And so that's what makes them bond, according to the synopsis, is the fact that they have got one common goal, and it is to rid the world of said beasts. And I just... Angela Montoya, I beg of you, por favor, mi reina, dame un buen libro de vampiros, porque es que te lo juro que la gente no lo está haciendo bien. Así que por favor, mi reina latina, por favor, Angela Montoya, estoy de rodillas, not really, pero estoy de rodillas, por favor, para que me des un buen libro de los sedientos. Oh my god, I'm so excited. And those are the books that I'm anticipating from here till the end of the year, friends. I was surprised that I didn't have more, like I mentioned at the beginning. I thought there would be more fantasy books that I'd be interested in, or just books in general. And I don't know why a lot of the releases this year just haven't been calling my attention. So I'm hoping that these 10 right here, if I do end up getting to them, that they're all very good and that I may find some favorites. Fingers crossed. I'm really just vying for A Cruel Thirst because, oh my god, Latin vampires. Oh my god, I am hoping that that's good. I'm really crossing my fingers. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up down below and let a girl know in the comment section what are books that are not out yet that you're still anticipating before the year is over, because you guys may be onto some releases that I've got no idea about. Because let's be honest, sometimes with these lists on Goodreads and different bookstores, it is hard to find exactly what it is you'd be interested in. And I browsed through quite a bit of pages and I was not finding a lot. So if you guys have got anything you're looking forward to still, let a girl know in the comment section, because I'd love to see what you guys are up to by the end of the year. And if you reach the very end of the video, let us leave some vampire emojis for A Cruel Thirst, because it'd be a crime not to, because it sounds too good. So if you reach the end, you know what to leave down below. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already for more content like this. And if you guys would like to support the channel further, you already know there's a Patreon linked in the description that really helps keep everything afloat and running smoothly to get equipment and other expensive things that need to be acquired every once in a while. So that is always linked down below in case you guys want to support the channel further and get tons of perks back, like early access and live streams and reading sprints on a Discord server and 2 different book clubs. It is all a lot of fun. So if you would like to join a bookish community full of really amazing people, that is linked in the description. I love you guys so much. The light is going down, so I'm going to skedaddle, and I will see you on the next one.
Goodbye!